Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome to everyone here. Great to see you all. Welcome, Prime Minister Mickoski. This is truly a special event for us here at Johns Hopkins SAIS, here at the Bloomberg Center with the Foreign Policy Institute. My name is Edward Joseph, and I want to welcome you all. And I want to extend a special welcome to Prime Minister Mickoski here to Washington, attending the NATO summit. And as far as I know, Prime Minister, this would be your first public event in the United States as Prime Minister.
First of all, thank you for the invitation.
Please.
Dear Professor, I mean, we are colleagues, teaching some different, a little bit science. I'm an engineer, but nevertheless, now I'm the Prime Minister of my country, and this is something that is very important for all of us. And thank you for this invitation here and for the opportunity that we can talk about the challenges.
Yes.
And that we can talk about something that is behind, what should not happen in the future. So I think that it will be a very interesting debate. And yes, indeed, this is my first public appearance since I'm here at the United States as Prime Minister of my country after the Prespa agreement, North Macedonia, but prior that Republic.
Of course. And I want to also welcome you as the Macedonian Prime Minister there. And I believe I've stayed true to the Prespa agreement in appropriately using that term. And I'm very pleased to use that term. Welcome you, Prime Minister Mickoski. And let me just quickly say here that you have something in common with our great benefactor here, Michael Bloomberg, and it's the namesake for the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg Center, that you were both engineers and accomplished engineers, and that you have been on the faculty at the university, Kirill and Metodia, in
St. Cyril and Methodius.
exactly
Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and teaching.
for 2 decades.
Yeah, mechatronics. This is something like a synergy between mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer programming. I spent some time in Italy, in Germany for my PhD. I did some artificial intelligence 15 years ago, controlling of manipulation robots by using fuzzy logic. And then I came back. So I'm a full professor. In my previous life, I taught students.
Well, we're happy to have you here at we're an academic institution. And I would just quickly point out here, and by way of introduction, to say that you engineered in a good way, I use the term in a good way, and incredible election results in which your party, VMRO-DPMNE, attained what was almost unthinkable, nearly an outright majority in the parliament, at 58 seats in a 120 seat Sovrane parliament. And you have just recently successfully formed a new government that includes a coalition. Obviously, as always, there's an Albanian, ethnic Albanian coalition partner in your coalition. And we should note as well that the election saw some interesting election results there, with the party Dewey now entering opposition for the first time in almost 14 years. And then finally, let me just say this very briefly, that obviously you're here with this milestone NATO summit, 75th anniversary NATO summit. That is very high stakes, perhaps even higher stakes than we even anticipated. And I just want to emphasize how your country, how North Macedonia has been, even when it was also Republic of Macedonia, was a loyal first partner and now ally of the alliance, back even prior to entering the alliance in Afghanistan, always providing and serving above your size of your country. And that continues as an ally today with Ukraine, with the outstanding support that your country has been providing against Russia's aggression. So we'll be hearing more about that. And Prime Minister, that's in fact, if you permit me, that's where I'd like to begin here. Your perspectives on this summit as you come here, as you come as a full NATO ally, please.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity once again. Let me introduce the audience about how it happened. I mean, I was elected as a president of VMRO-DPMNE 6 years ago. And practically, the legacy from the predecessor was literally nothing. Completely demoralized structure, demolished structure. We were party without cohesion inside the party. Attacked from inside, attacked from outside, and that was very challenging period for all of us as a new leadership. But then we decided to have something which is called harder way instead of humiliating ourselves. Or it's better to be harder than shameful for all of us. And we started from the ashes to rebuild the structure as a new leadership. We faced with a lot of challenges in the meantime. That was not very easy time for all of us, or it was a hard time. But the first victory came in 2021, as a matter of fact, when we won the local elections, local self-governance in my country is very important. For the first time in our independent history, some political party won from a position of the opposition with the majority of mayors. We had 45 out of 80, and that was the first sign that probably change will happen. It was landslide victory for us, and together with me are some of the members of the government, Minister for Interior, Minister for Defense, Minister for Foreign Affairs, who served formerly as a mayor of the biggest Skopje municipality, Aerodrom, Timcho, and the chief of my staff, and some other members of our delegation, Macedonian delegation now, during this NATO summit. So practically with this victory, we announced that changes will happen. And we worked hard with our mayors. We changed a little bit perception in the country because our mayors started to deliver. Prior to that situation was only talk without work, only promises, only commitments, but the delivery missed. And with the work of our mayors, we changed the general perception. And practically, during the last presidential and parliamentary elections, again, we did some historical achievement because for the first time for our democratic history, opposition candidate won the presidential election. Never occurred in the past, in the past more than 3 decades and some years independence. And as you said, we are that close to have our own majority in the parliament. We have 58 MPs out of 120. But we did a coalition, bearing in mind multi-ethnical character of my country. And now we are almost with the 2/3 majority in the parliament. This is a very important fact because with 2/3 majority, we will be able to do some reforms, structural reforms, because according to our legislation and constitution, with 2/3 majority, we can do something which is important for the citizens, especially when we are talking about fight against criminal corruption and rule of law, which is pandemic. So, long story short, we are more than 2 weeks elected as a new government, and immediately from the very beginning we started to deliver. And we are trying to change perception and to bring hope among our citizens. This is something which is missing. The disappointment is huge. During the 7 years of the previous government, unfortunately, we failed to deliver. And this is the reason why the immigration is is that big, and this is the reason why the brain drain is that big. 8 out of 10 my students after the graduation are deciding to move abroad because simply the disappointment during the past 7 years was very big. But nevertheless, probably we will talk about this later. Regarding Ukraine, we witnessed on the unprecedented aggression of Russia towards sovereign independent state. My country is the biggest donor. Practically, Macedonian government and Macedonian parliament voted in a favor of huge amount of donations for Ukraine, and we are among the top 5 suppliers, donators per capita. We are not that big and rich country, but we are doing our efforts in order to support Ukrainians to defend their territorial sovereignty and to fight against Russian aggression. What is occurring in Ukraine is something that is a threat for the humanity at all. And we have to stand next to Ukrainians. We have to protect democracy. And this is the way how we prove our commitment. And this is the way how the others prove their commitment. Unfortunately, there are some countries speaking worldwide that are at the same time supporting Ukraine, same time negotiating with the European Union, but also they're flirting with Russian leader, President Putin, and also Xi Jinping. And unfortunately, those countries are not accountable, especially in front of the European authorities. While my country has been, unfortunately, artificially constrained in the past in terms of entering into the NATO, if we are talking about the developments back in 2008, and especially nowadays when we are talking about finally after 2.5 decades starting the negotiations with the Europeans. And we have 100% justified foreign policy with the European Union, which is not the situation with some other countries which are negotiating. They're negotiating and at the same time flirting with Putin, Xi Jinping, etc. This is something which is not good, and this looks like a double standard. But nevertheless, it's the reality. The big ones are doing what they can, the small ones are doing what they must. Unfortunately, we are the small ones, and we have to take reality seriously. And we have to fight for our promotion and for our rights. We will continue to support Ukraine in the future as a new government. We will continue to support fight of Ukrainians for the freedom toward Russian aggressor. As I said, we are not a big country. We are unfortunately not that rich country. Although we are NATO member, we are candidate country, and although we are in Europe, but unfortunately we can't afford too much. But concerning the sources that we have on disposal, we are doing the best what we can. As I said, we are among the 5 donators per capita compared with the old countries all around the globe, which are standing next to the Ukrainians and next to Ukraine in order to support their fight for freedom and fight against Russian aggression. So as a new government, we will continue our support, and depends on our availability, we will increase our support if it is possible.
Well, that's I know that's very encouraging to hear, Prime Minister Mickoski, that I don't think anyone could expect a stronger, more clear statement of the Macedonian stance on Russian aggression and the support for Ukraine than that. And I would just quickly add that just this week, a senior Defense Department, U.S. Defense Department official publicly acknowledged the contribution that your country's made, and I know, and I've heard State Department officials as well. It's remarkable for the size of your country, the support that you're providing to Ukraine. And you mentioned these double standards and the fact that some of your neighbors, one in particular that you share a border with, has a flirtation and a relationship with both China and Russia while maintaining a long-standing EU candidacy that doesn't seem to be going very far. And we're going to come to that question of the double standards in a minute. But first, just so people understand how we'll proceed, let's look domestically at your domestic priorities, your domestic agenda, and then we're going to come to the your EU path and your relationship with some of your neighbors there in the Southeast Europe and the Balkans region. So I want to come to this question. You mentioned corruption, and you know that this was a huge factor in this historic victory that your party enjoyed. And you have spoken very clearly about this, and you said, here's a quote, "The time for justice is coming." You said, "There will be accountability for crime because it destroys our shared future." And let me just mention here that we had on this topic, we had in February, the former Deputy Prime Minister for Good Governance, Slavica Gurkovska, here, and she headlined our discussion was on why is it so hard to fight corruption in our country? She pointed to this very lack of accountability. So can you tell us how your government, this government, will be different from the former? Yes, that no one will be spared regardless of their political affiliation or ethnic background. And how about the judiciary and this question of the judicial council? How you will approach these issues, please.
Rule of law is not applicable in my country. Situation with criminal corruption is unfortunately pandemic. And this will be the biggest challenge for us because our utmost priority will be economical growth. And we will not be able to develop on a proper way our economy if there is no decisive battle against criminal corruption. There are a lot of reasons why that occurred in the past, and we have to face with this challenge if we want to develop our country for the next generations. There is huge alliance between some political elites, prosecutors, judges, and business elites. And we have to break this alliance if we want to develop our country and if we want to bring justice as should be. Otherwise, we will fail as well like all our predecessors. And we will be defeated. From the very beginning, we started with the idea of canceling the Judicial Council and the Council of Public Prosecutors. Why? There is a simple reason. Those two institutions has 2% positive perception among the citizens. Literally 2%. So if I would have 2% support among the citizens, then I will immediately leave this job. I'm not for this job. I have to do something else. And we said, look, when we have a problem, we have to face with the problem and we have to provide solution. And this is our solution. But this was the reason for some experts to appear on surface protecting Judicial Council, Council of Public Prosecutors, etc., etc. criticizing our solution, but at the same time not offering something different. And I said to them, look, and I said this very loud publicly, when you have a problem, you have to find a solution for that problem. Otherwise, it is a fight. We are all aware that we have a problem. If we do survey now, what will be the utmost problem in our country? Probably the first one will be economy, the second one will be fight against criminal corruption and perception about judicial impunity, which is terrible. Citizens desperately need some changes in this regard. So we have now again status quo, but we will continue our fight in order to bring justice. Justice will bring hope. Those two pillars are coming jointly together. Otherwise, I said, we will fail as well. And soon from now, we will become a country full of elders. All youngsters will leave the country and they will probably search for a different luck somewhere else, not in their motherland. This will be our biggest challenge for the years to come. I will fight. I will fight for my stand. I will fight for what we are promoting as a government, despite all those experts that appeared. And I think that we will win this battle again. Why? Because people are hungry for justice. I invited all those experts in my cabinet. Let's see, let's talk. Let's find a way. Because we are not able to continue as it was up to now. We have to change something. 2% support among the citizens is terrible. And criminals are decent citizens being criminals. It should be vice versa. This is the reason probably why we are not front runners in the region in terms of economical development. And this should be our motive for the future, to do something with the perspective of our citizens. Otherwise, I'm not an optimist. But we have now a comfortable position in the parliament. With those numbers, we'll be able to do structural reforms. We'll be able to bring justice, rule of law, and we have to bring in front of the citizens our personal performance. Always when I'm talking with the international politicians, with the foreigners, they're asking me how you will deal with this pandemic level of criminal corruption. My answer is, look, we have brilliant laws written in the paper with a super substance, justified with EU legislation, but implementation is missing. And with the personal behavior, we can practically bring hope among our associates within the institutions. If we are full with the allegations that we have been involved in some criminal and corruption actions, then this will discourage our associates. They will say, look, why I should invest all my efforts to work for him or for her when they are full of allegations of their personal involvement in criminal corruption. Our mayors, elected in 2021, proved with their behavior that there is a way, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Prior to local elections, we did surveys in all municipalities around the country. And for the citizens, first and utmost priority was corruption within the administration locally. Now, 3 years afterwards, and 2.5 years self-governance where we have majority of mayors, we also did survey prior to the presidential and parliamentary elections. That issue was not even among the 10 priority issues. So we changed the perception. That's why I said at the very beginning of this discussion that with personal behavior, our mayors succeed, change perception. And now citizens have different requests, different priorities, different issues that are important for them. So we have to prove with our personal behavior that we want to bring justice and that we are pretty much engaged in a battle against criminal corruption.
And Prime Minister, you noted there that how important it is to give the citizens a sense of justice. Otherwise, everyone is just going to continue to leave. But you succeeded at the local level, but not now. You have the challenge at the national level.
That will follow.
Yes, and so with this, let me just quickly two concrete potential ways forward that I want to ask you about here, and then we're going to move to this question about your pathway to the EU and your relationship with the neighbors. But let me just mention two concrete paths forward, steps that could be taken with this near 2/3 majority in Parliament. One is what some people call law on restricted measures, which would be a linkage, require investigation where the US, for example, has put officials on or individuals on a blacklist. So that we, in other words, the US use of the blacklist would trigger a domestic investigation. This is one suggestion. The other suggestion is to reverse this notorious changes to the criminal code that took place last September by the previous government that basically provided a way out for those officials who even had their sentences basically terminated or judicial proceedings terminated. And for many citizens, this was basically the last straw. So what about reversing those changes to the criminal code and this other notion, linkage to the US sanctions, please?
We have to be, Professor, open and honest in front of the citizens. Unfortunately, those steps are not sufficient. Why? First one, law that is tackling US sanctions. We have to prepare law which will be according to our constitution. The proposal that was submitted from the previous government in the parliament was not according to the constitution. So we have to justify our constitution. Easily, if someone challenge this law in front of the constitutional court, it will fail. So it will be worthless if we pass through parliament procedure this law if it is not according to our constitution. Unfortunately, that was the case with the previous proposal. Regarding the second issue, again, it is not sufficient if we go back again with the old criminal code. Why? Because in the meantime, the new one was applicable. So in the future, practically the criminal will have option to choose which one is better for him or for her during the court case. So this is not sufficient to bring justice. I said we have to liberate our judiciary and prosecutory. This alliance between some of the prosecutors and judges, political elites, and business elites. This is the way how we will be able to bring justice. With the laws, I said, we have brilliant laws written on the paper. Implementation. And this is the way how we could act in the future. Everything else will be improvisation. Long story short, those two steps are not sufficient.
Understand, and wish you all success also in this judicial council, and hope, I understand the EU has its own view on that, and I hope that you will continue to press for truly effective measures, because you're absolutely right. And I saw recently the departing Dutch ambassador pointed out that, as you said, this incredibly low trust in judiciary in North Macedonia versus 80% trust in the Netherlands. And it's and the US ambassador has also, so it's truly a crisis, and you're right that dramatic measures have to be taken. Now, of course, reform of rule of law would be accelerated and strengthened if you had the ability, as you have earned, as your country has earned, to open negotiations for membership in the European Union. And this has, of course, been long denied to your country unfairly. And the question that we have now is, will you finally be able to open those negotiations? And what is your strategy for doing it? You have come into office here noting very clearly that there are double standards that are being applied to North Macedonia. And let's focus on the immediate blockage, which is with Bulgaria, and this negotiating framework. And if you'll allow me just to point out these two double standards that you've noted, you said, look, they've changed the friendship treaty with this by introducing these new requirements in.
One remark.
Yes.
They changed good neighborly treaty with this annex so-called French proposal.
Exactly.
So we have renegotiations.
Exactly. And that, so from your standpoint, there's, they've already reopened what was a settled agreement by introducing this French proposal in the negotiating framework. And then the second is you've raised the longstanding issue of the rights of Macedonians in Bulgaria when your country is asked to secure Bulgarians, ethnic Bulgarians, in your own constitution. So these are two double standards that you put in. In addition, there's a third issue with Bulgaria, which is the potential that there could be further demands. So you've raised this. I can tell you, someone who has worked in your country and written about these identity issues, I have all sympathy and understanding. And I've written two proposals how the US can address this. But my question for you is, how do you see the pathway to addressing these double standards when we already have reaction of the EU and the United States in the position of Ambassador Aguilar and EU Representative Gear, who say these are settled agreements. PRESPA, of course, is settled, but so is the negotiating framework, and that's that. So what is the strategy to address these double standards, please?
Thank you, dear Professor, for this question. First, I would like to give some introduction to the audience about what Macedonian citizens did for the European perspective and what might be the solution for the future to unlock this case. First, let me explain what is the latest demand that's coming from our eastern neighbor. And this is the result of the renegotiating process of Good Neighborly Treaty, which was signed in August 2017, so-called French. We will be able to start our negotiations if we bring a couple of hundred of our citizens in our preamble, which claim that are part of Bulgarian community in my country. And it's okay. No one is opposing on that. Okay, but whether this is the last, who can guarantee us that this is the last? Okay, we don't have an answer on that question. Let's see what is the need of such a step. Whether someone rights, human rights being violated, it might be an issue. Which institution in Europe is in charge to judge whether someone's rights has been violated? We're talking about Strasbourg Human Rights Court. That's it. Let's see the result. We have 14 decisions from Strasbourg Human Rights Court saying that human rights of Macedonian community in Bulgaria being violated or restricted, sort of it, and 0 for Bulgarian community in my country. 14-0. Then there is a logical question: which rights have been violated, and what is the need of such a step? And then the voice or voices from Brussels are coming and they're saying, yes, you're right, your argument is, but there is a unanimity rule. Okay. There is a unanimity rule within the decision-making process in European Union. But let's see what happened past December during the European Council Summit, when there was on the table decision for the future support of Ukraine, and when one person left the room. So there is no more unanimity rule. There is a rule of missing persons, which means that if there is a will, there is a way. Fortunately, probably the will is missing. Let's remind the audience what Macedonian citizens did in the past. We changed our national flag in 1994. We changed our currency, national currency, in 1995. We had a conflict back in 2001, and as a result of that military conflict, Ohrid Framework Agreement happened. We changed our constitution again. We changed our constitution for a new territorial reorganization of the country. And back in 2018, we changed our constitution and our constitutional name. Always from the voices that came from Brussels, we've been convinced that you have to do only this, and this is the last that you should do. And immediately afterwards, you will start negotiations. 5 years from now, you will become a member of EU because you are the front runners in the region. Those were the voices that arrived back in 2018. So now we are 2024. 6 years afterwards, and unfortunately, we're not able to start negotiations. We're still in the lobby. We're still in the lobby. And just to remind the audience, we started our journey even prior to Croatia back in 2000 by signing the Stabilization and Association Agreement. Together with Croatia, we become a candidate in 2005. Together with Croatia, we received first positive report in 2008. Start the negotiation. Croatia is for 1 decade member in EU, part of the Schengen zone. They are using euro as a national currency while we are still in the lobby. We are not even on the table. Why? Because now we are facing with additional artificial imposed constraint on us. And what is the solution? Because you asked me what is the solution. Don't have sufficient time, I can enter into details, but I will describe what is our solution. We said, and we wrote in our electoral program, we are ready to pass through constitutional changes in the parliament now, but they should become effective when we will end our negotiations and when the protocol of accession in EU will be ratified by all national parliaments of 27 member states. Because, sorry, but we've been betrayed too many times in the past. And unfortunately, we can't believe that this will be the last element imposed in front of us artificially. All those voices are saying to me, look, Hristijan, we are guarantee you that this is the last. I'm saying, and I'm answering them, look, okay, I believe you. I believe Brussels, I believe Berlin, I believe Rome, Paris, but I know to whom I'm not able to believe. So please try to convince me first by convincing authorities of our eastern neighbor to implement at least 3 decisions that are coming from Strasbourg Himalaya. At least 3 decisions. But you know, how can we you're not able to convince them to implement at least 3. Then how can you convince me that this is the last? What will happen 6 months afterwards, 1 year afterwards, if there is another veto for us? For some other reasons, for something that happened in the middle century. Imagine, we are talking about future, we're talking about 20th century, we're talking about challenges, we're talking about bringing hope, and at the same time, in parallel, we will negotiate with our eastern neighbor what happened, what occurred in the Middle Age. And that might be a reason for a new veto. How we will look like in front of our citizens? Like fools. Like fools. So we would like to see something what is tangible. And something tangible that will come from Brussels and from the internationals. We are ready to sit with the new government that will come from our eastern neighbor. Unfortunately, the last attempt failed. It was not successful. Probably soon from now they will have a government. And let's talk about really good neighborly relations. But it should be a two-way street, not only one-way street. Let's talk about what we can do and what they can do. I will be very happy and I will appreciate if we, as a countries from a region, present ourselves in front of the third countries, like, for example, Baltic countries are doing, or Scandinavian countries. This is a good neighborly relations. And this is the way how the good neighborly relations should look like. Not imposing constraints, not vetoing one to each other. In the contrary, supporting. For example, first veto for us was imposed in 2008 when Albania and Croatia became NATO members by our southern neighbor. And we were not able to become NATO members, although we fulfilled all requirements. Even we were front runners in that time compared with Albania and Croatia. But unfortunately, during the Bucharest summit, Karamanlis government imposed veto because of the NATO. 21st century, nay. Okay. In 1991, the territory of my country was literally hub of NATO military fighting against Milosevic's regime. while some of the NATO countries forbidden use of their sky. We hosted couple of 100,000 NATO soldiers. We hosted almost 500,000 refugees. And what we received as a reward? Veto. 9 years afterwards. That was the reward for the citizens of the country. Long story short, enough of humiliation. We are not politicians full of allegations with criminal corruption, in one hand waving with EU flag and with the other robbing the country. We will protect our interests, not offensively, but arguments. We are ready to talk, we are ready to debate, we are ready to present our arguments with the counter opponents, and which arguments will prevail, we are ready to accept. If their arguments prevail, our arguments, we are ready to accept. We are not stubborn. We are not stubborn, but we are not naive anymore. We did, Macedonian citizens did for the European perspective like no one did from the member countries. Change name, flag, currency, territorial reorganization, etc. And we did nothing.
Prime Minister Mickoski, you've made that, I would say, quite compelling case on your approach on that. And I would say that it's a fact. No EU candidate has been asked, or NATO candidate for that matter, has been asked to do more than your country. You're absolutely right to recite that list. And you made a very strong point here when we come to the inevitable question, well, how to convince your eastern neighbor, Bulgaria. And you make the case, a very good point in what happened in December, and you make a good argument here that I remind everyone to say where there's a will, there's a way. You pointed that. Now, let me give two just specific ways of potentially addressing the concerns that you raised about constantly having more demands, something I've written about from Bulgaria, that you're told, okay, just put Bulgarians in the constitution and then everything will be fine. And you're saying, hey, we're not naive anymore about that. What about this? And as you mentioned, the Baltics, it's very likely that the Prime Minister of Estonia, Prime Minister Kallas, will succeed Borrell as the EU High Commissioner, basically the EU Foreign Minister. What if Kallas, in official capacity, assuming she's approved by the European Parliament, were to write a formal assurance that this is it? You put the Bulgarians in the constitution, and your negotiations are only a matter of your own compliance. No, with respect to Bulgaria, that chapter is closed as long as you comply. Would that be sufficient for you? And I point out here that there's precedent for this. Predecessor before Borrell, Mogherini, wrote an assurance to Kosovo about the association of certain majority municipalities. Question of how credible or significant, but there is precedent for that. She wrote a formal letter of assurance to the Kosovo Prime Minister about that. So that's one. The other is, as we're here in Washington, do you see any role that the United States could play? Even though this is an EU matter, obviously the US can't influence what the EU does, but could the United States on its own, acting on its own, provide somewhat direct bilateral assurances to your country about the identity, even about history, under the strategic dialogue? There's another way I've thought through a bilateral historical commission. Is there any role for the United States here, or only maybe behind the scenes? Please.
Dear Professor, thank you for practically two similar questions or two potential solutions. As I said, I mean, we do believe on good intentions and good voices that are coming from DC, from Washington. And we believe that we have super good strategic partner relations with the United States. We do believe that Brussels has super good intentions. That Brussels is very keen to host us starting the negotiations. But we have doubt whether all 27 capitals has same intentions. And that's why this time we need something tangible. I can evoke now memories from 2018 when a lot of politicians from EU, from all around the globe came with me. Those were hard talks. Those were not gentle talks. Convincing public that you have to do only this and that's it. This is the last thing. 5 years from now, you will become a member. We did another sacrifice. We stepped back from another pillar of our identity, constitutional name. The biggest pillar of each nation identity is name of the identity. And what happened? What happened? Nothing. And this is something that citizens, Macedonian citizens, need something tangible. In the 21st century, we are witnessing rising of issue linked with my mother tongue, Macedonian language. This is the fact. This is the reality. Parliament of our neighbor raised this issue. They even have a declaration accepted by vast majority in their national parliament, denying my mother tongue Macedonian language. Although Macedonian language is a part of the United Nations since 1945 as an official language from former Yugoslavia, together with Serbo-Croatian and Slovenian language, codified in 1977, internationally codified during the Athens conference in Greece. And it is a fact. And now we are talking and we are negotiating about something which is fact. I mean, this is not really European value. And who is promoting now European values? Politicians that are demolishing European, denying my right for my mother tongue, denying my right for self-identification. Those politicians, unfortunately, now are a part of the European family. That's why we need something tangible. In the meantime, we will focus on our homework and we will invest all our efforts to find solution for the problems that we have internally in the country. And we are ready to sit on the table and to talk about something tangible for the future.
I understand that, Prime Minister, in the time we have left, I want to pivot now from your eastern neighbor, Bulgaria, to your southern neighbor, Greece, and pick up exactly on what you said about the language. Because, in fact, one of the benefits of the Prespa agreement is that it clearly acknowledges the Macedonian language, the Macedonian nationality. It makes clear that the adjective, and for those who don't know, the proper adjective is Macedonian, not North Macedonia, Macedonian, and this is the right that is enshrined in that agreement. And so my question for you is while you face these double standards, in fact, the Prespa agreement is not a double standard. It imposes obligations on both Athens and on Skopje, on Greece and North Macedonia. And many people, myself included, see that it is a worthy agreement, a true compromise, not one where one party has the upper hand and the other party has to kowtow to that other party, but one that was the product of extensive negotiations with mediation, extensive and assistance, even of course from the United States in achieving that. So what about the relationship with Greece, especially given these difficulties and the very real concerns you have about Bulgaria and this not being the last demand? Why not preserve the good relationship with Greece so you demonstrate first to the EU, but you also have an ally and a partner within the EU, as opposed to potentially, as has been raised by the current Bulgarian Prime Minister, the potential that the two can, quote, join forces. So why not maintain that avenue? And as you acknowledge, the Prespa agreement, and as President Silanovska has acknowledged, that Prespa is a settled agreement. Why not maintain that and say, look, that's settled, and we're going to maintain the relationship with Greece without issue, and we focus on our issues that we have with our Eastern neighbor.
Yes, dear professor, I was probably the first opposition politician 4 years ago said very clearly publicly that Prespa is reality. And it's a part of our legislation, it's a part of our constitution, and that's it. I was not waiting to come to power, promising behind the curtain one thing and in front of the curtain the other thing. During the opposition, I was loud and I said, look, probably Prespa is not perfect, it's asymmetric, but it is a reality. And we can't behave with the double standards in front of our citizens, to ask from them to respect legislation and constitution, and at the same time, we as a politicians to act in a contrary of the constitution and legislation. That's why we are talking about the new name, my country, North Macedonia, after the Prespa, previously Republic of Macedonia. That's why we are talking about institutions with the new name. I've been presented here as a Prime Minister of North Macedonia. And it's not good feeling. It's not good feeling for me because we changed our name. And this is not something that we should be proud of. Have this feeling in the stomach. And we did a lot in terms of implementation of the Prespa agreement. And we did even more. But what we received from all of that, from all those promises, I said, we are still in the lobby and we are not negotiating. Again, I will emphasize, we changed our flag, we changed our currency, we changed our name for behalf of the European future and perspective. But unfortunately, delivery is missing. Therefore, I think that we have to fight with our neighbors for common future. Build bridges, not to destroy them, to cooperate in terms of education, economical cooperation, tourism. Everything what might bring an added value of lives of our citizens. This is the way how this government will behave in the future. We will not rename our highways, we will not build monuments, we will not rename our airports. No. We would like to focus on something what is important for our and their needs. We would like to bring something tangible for them. This will be our utmost priority.
Understand. And in terms of tangible benefits, you're absolutely right. And let's just say it out loud that the historic mistake, as it has been called, of France to block your pathway after having changed your name, on top of having changed the flag and the currency and all the other steps that your country has made. But in terms of concrete benefits, it's worth pointing out that you're here representing your country as a proud full NATO ally, which was a deliverable from the Prespa Agreement, which Greece complied with, and it went through their parliament. And as you know well, it's an agreement that was and remains unpopular in Greece. So we see that's a certain reality and a certain maybe validator of the agreement, that we can say for sure that it wasn't one-sided, that because we know that it has an element of unpopularity in both of your neighbors. Now, what I would like to do is ask you about your relationship with the other neighbors. You mentioned and alluded to one that has a close, this false balance with Russia. And of course, that neighbor is Serbia. And I'd like to ask you here in the time we have about your relationship with Serbia, your country and your government's relationship with Serbia, with Kosovo, and also with Croatia. Because each figure to some degree potentially. And with Serbia, I'd ask you how you perceive developments in the country and how you perceive the relationship there, this duality that you alluded to. And I was just in Dubrovnik at the Dubrovnik Forum. Your foreign minister, Timur Mickoski, was very ably represented your country there, and heard, as I did, Prime Minister Plenković speak about now relations with Montenegro, which had been completely settled in a very positive way, are now suddenly back on the agenda. And many people believe that there's perhaps influence from Belgrade there. So that's number one. And that relates, of course, to the question of open Balkans. And it also relates, I'm compressing here, to your relationship with Kosovo. And I saw President Tsilanovska met the ambassador of Kosovo recently. So you perceive, how do you perceive your relations with your neighbor Kosovo? Understanding, of course, dramatic developments that happened there last September in Banska. How do you see the relationship with Serbia, open Balkans, Kosovo, and we'll come to Croatia, please.
Dear Professor, there is one famous quote by Winston Churchill. Balkan is producing too much history which is not able to consume. And this is something that always will be describing the relations in the Balkans. As much as we interfere into the history, that much problems will appear on the surface. Our intention and the intention of new Macedonian government is to focus on the future. I will start with my perception with what is happening in our northern border. I mean, I'm talking about Kosovo and Serbia. Then I will jump to this open Balkan initiative. Once I heard that the top priority of this regional initiative, Open Balkan, is to boost, to speed up, to accelerate the trade, economical cooperation between the member countries. So I was wondering how Serbia and Albania are bordering. And where is the border between Albania and Serbia? According to Serbia government and according to the Albanian government, where is the border? And what is the reason for this type of double standard? Because if Albania is accepting Kosovo as a fact and Serbia is not accepting Kosovo as a fact, I mean, independent country, then why we need this type of double standard? Why we need this type of statements? And why we need this type of initiatives when we have this Berlin process? What kind of added value this initiative will or may bring? If there is a increasement of economy, some kind of other relations, okay, but let's see what type of relations we might accelerate with this initiative. It was a little bit confusing for them. What is the motive when we have 3 members, Serbia, Macedonia, Albania, and we have different understanding of borders in the region? Then we are betraying the expectations of our citizens. We are not honest. And what kind of politicians we are when we are not honest in front of our citizens? I think that we should be honest, our citizens, and those are our workers. We are receiving our wages from our citizens, taxes being paid by our citizens, and I think that in the future we have 2 options. The first option is to complete this regional initiative with the other countries, or to step back. Depends on the interests of bigger stakeholders. Why? Because as it is right now, it's not complete. Some of the puzzles are missing in this mosaic. If the mosaic is complete, then we can talk about real future, real perspective, boost of economy, etc., etc. Everything what follows with that. But as it is right now, this is a good way of organizing meetings twice annually, drinking wine, laughing, talking about something, and that's it, without tangible results. What happened? We have this initiative for almost a couple of years. What is it? I mean, I'm supporter of each initiative that might bring an added value, but what is the added value of this initiative? I'm probably there is as such, but it's not visible, or I'm not able to see it, or I'm mistaken. I don't know. I mean, probably the answer will come. Regarding the relations with Kosovo and Serbia, I think that we have decent relations with all neighbors: Albania, Kosovo, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece. With some of them, as I said, and as I talked about them, we have some misunderstandings. Probably we will clear up in the future those misunderstandings. I know that the leaders of the states, prime minister, presidents, care about the future of their nations, their countries. And in that regard, I think that all presidents of the states of our neighborhood countries are behaving. Some of them probably we might like, some of them we might dislike, but this is the way how they receive or lose support from the citizens. When we are talking about double standards, blame is not around us. Blame is somewhere else. Why? Because we don't have the same environment. Because for some of us, the environment is tricky, bumpy, full of challenges and constraints. For the others, no. And for the others, someone else has understanding, but not for all of them. That's why I started this event with the double standards. At the same time, we can't talk and be vocal that we would like to be a part of the European family, etc., and at the same time flirting with Putin and Xi Jinping. No, we are not stupid, neither we are smart. We have to choose. Now, concerning the globe challenges, we have to choose. And we have to choose as a region. Macedonian citizens choose. And we know what is the future of our country. NATO and European Union. Unfortunately, in the past, I said, we had a lot of politicians waving with the NATO and EU flag and robbing the country. This generation is pretty much different, and we will defend our rights to succeed. We don't want to lose, neither to fail, and we will succeed.
I think that's if I were writing a headline about this, I would say we were defending our right to succeed. I think that's a great tagline. Before we close, Prime Minister, I just wanted to mention that your neighbor Croatia, just see if you have any views about the relationship, because obviously also.
And a small correction, Professor, we are not neighboring with Croatia.
Bordering, but in your neighbor, but
I'm joking.
of course, the Balkans have borders on the Rhine, but I'm speaking as a neighbor of yours, and one that's also in the EU, and hopefully can play a supportive role. And then finally, because you mentioned it, and I would ask your view on this, is you mentioned Xi Jinping. So your country has up to now kept China at a certain distance. And obviously, again, you're heading into a NATO summit. Probably there will be some, the topic of China will probably come up at the summit, although Russia will be in focus. Can you say anything about your perception of China, of its role in the region, of the potential relationship, including the messaging from some, and we can expect if Prime Minister Kallas becomes replaces Borrell and becomes effectively the EU foreign minister, as representing Estonia, and the Baltic states have moved very far out of the, what was 17+1 and 14+1. How do you see your country in its relationship with China, maintaining this cautious distance? Another neighbor, not there, Montenegro, obviously got into a significant debt trap with China. Do you see that as also as a cautionary example and to maintain some distance with China?
I said that, Professor, we did our choice, and we don't have doubts regarding our choice. And we'll be very keen to have economical relations with our strategic partners, rather than China. Although, to be honest, China is pretty much aggressive in the region with the sort of investments. Montenegro, Croatia, Serbia, Greece. Also, we have 2 highways in our country based on loans, but nevertheless, still we have 2 highways. One is finished, but the other one is almost a funny story that is retelling in my country about how long, how time it will take until we finish the second highway that will connect western part of my country, which is a part of Corridor 8. But nevertheless, probably until the 2026 new government, we will finish this project, and we'll have those 2 highways done. What are our 3 priorities as a government in terms of economical growth and logistical approach? First one is energy sovereignty. We are energy dependent country. We import electricity, we import oil, we import gas, although we are not big consumer of gas. But my personal milestone and the milestone of this new Macedonian government is to make country energy independent in terms of electricity. The first foreign direct investment that we announced was in the field of electricity, in the field of energy. We are talking about $500 million investment, new wind farm, which will produce approximately 20% of our consumption portfolio, green electricity, renewable source, and this will reduce CO2. And this is something that is step forward towards energy autonomy, energy sovereignty in terms of electricity. I'm talking about electricity now. So soon from now, with our plans, we foreseen balance sheet 0. So practically, we will export and import electricity that will be result with 0 number. Now we are importing more than 25% of our needs. This is the way how we will attract investors, and we will be able to offer to them accurate and stable electricity supply, and this might become attractive for new potential investors in our country. So we are now like a crossroad in this part of the globe in terms of cross-border transactions of electricity trade. The second, our priority will be how to become crossroad of gas cross-border transactions. Bearing in mind that all contracts, all agreements for transiting gas through Ukraine started to expire this June, and they will expire until the end of this year. And who knows what will happen afterwards. The only way how to supply gas to Central European countries and to Eastern European countries is through South Stream, Turkey Stream. We're talking about Russian gas. What is our plan? What is our plan to finish interconnector with Greece and to start and finish interconnector with Serbia. So practically, this will bring second option to the Central Eastern European countries. Instead of using only Russian gas, to use gas that is coming from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, United States, Alexandropoli terminal, etc. So this will convert my country into the crossroad of gas cross-border transactions in this part of the globe. And the third thing is building fast railway. That will be logistical infrastructure for delivering products that are coming from the east to Europe. Why we need this fast railway? Because we will decrease the duration of departing products from east for 22 days. Now, 2 harbors has been used, Hamburg and Rotterdam. With this fast railway, we might be super good logistical route for the products that are coming from the east, and they might arrive in Piraeus or Thessaloniki, and they might be departed to the Central European countries through fast railway that will pass through. Those 3 pillars are our top priorities. We are ready to establish public-private partnership. We are ready to find external source of investment, and this will accelerate, despite the fact fight against criminal corruption. This will accelerate economical growth and growth of our domestic product. This is something what citizens of my country expect from New Macedonian government. Not fairy tales, not miracles, something tangible, something that might bring added value of their lives. Everything else will be based on principle as it was up to now. And up to now was not very successful, I must admit. So energy independence in terms of electricity, gas, cross-border transaction, gas, crossroad of Balkans, fast railway are 3 crucial pillars and 3 priorities of the New Macedonian government.
And I understand those 3 pillars, and if we have a time here, you can fill out questions on the cards and hand them. Our program coordinator, Frank Kessler, will take questions if you have a moment.
Also, I just want to say for people on the other side of the room, Camilla Manning is helping us out, so you can hand her cards as well.
So you could hand either to Brent or Camilla any brief question that you have. But this is crucial to ask you, Prime Minister Mickoski. You mentioned this Russian gas and that the Ukraine, the transit through Ukraine will cease, and then there will only be the South Stream, Turk Stream coming up. That you know very well. That serves, comes through Bulgaria, through Serbia, and also serves Hungary. And you know, of course, very well that Serbia and Hungary have agreed on a oil pipeline, doubling down. In addition to whatever the gas connector with Greece, that Belgrade and Budapest have agreed to actually build a new extension for oil to come from Russia there. So I want to ask you about your relationship with Hungary. You mentioned, you know, at this correctly in December that one country left the room, and where you said there's a will, there's a way. You're absolutely right about that. Where one country left, that country was Hungary. That was Prime Minister Orban. That was in his direction. So that Hungary stepped out of the room because these were additional sanctions on Russia. And you made it very clear about the absolute ironclad position on Russian aggression there. What about the relationship with Hungary? how do you see Hungary, which has clearly an ambivalent, at best, position with Russia? How do you see your country's relationship with Hungary? And we know, of course, a former political figure, a former prime minister, is in exile. Former Macedonian prime minister is in exile in Hungary. So, what can you tell us about your relationship with?
Yes, we have super friendly and decent relations with Prime Minister Orban. And what is our motive? Now we are witnessing on two big investments in Hungary that are coming from the east and from the west. There is one super big giant investment in Szeged, and we are talking about new production plant of BYD, the electric vehicle producer, where the biggest stakeholder is Warren Buffett. And we have also a super big plant of producing new vehicles invested by BMW in around the city of Debrecen. Those two big investments are with the amount of 15 billion euros. They need logistical hub. And we are searching for investments. And we would like to be a part of that potential new supply chain for those two big investments, for those two big factories. And we don't want to miss opportunity to attract new production plants that will open new jobs, and that will be a part of the supply chain of those two investments. One investment of BYD, and the second one is BMW. So practically, we are looking forward to establish much more fruitful relations with all European Union member countries. At this moment, we have this opportunity on the table, and we would like to grab the opportunity, and we would like to create new jobs, well-paid jobs. And as I said, this will be the biggest and utmost priority of the new Macedonian government. So economical growth, economical relations, increasing the economical relations with the European Union member countries are always welcome. And I will stimulate this type of investments in the future.
Appreciate that. Prime Minister, I'm apologizing here to our audience. I'm getting the message that the time has come to get you on your way. And I want to just refer and thank the audience for these very good questions, one of which I don't expect an answer, but to say that one, as we mentioned at the outset, asks about your perspective as an engineer. Do you see things differently about your country's fitness for EU accession, which I think you addressed, your expectations on EU enlargement, and about there's a further question about the gas transition and the railway. You don't have time to address those, but I might share them with Ambassador Popov here, who we have a very good relationship with, and hopefully we can get some answers back. And finally, before we close, and I let you continue on your way here during this NATO summit, I just want to call attention to the excellent contribution from youth leaders in North Macedonia, representing the entire multi-ethnic spectrum in the country, much of it, in our US NATO project. We just launched this last week. We had the spokesperson from US NATO with us, and there are some outstanding recommendations for the alliance for the Balkans from all WP6 neighbors. And that includes both Serbia and Kosovo. And as I mentioned from North Macedonia, excellent recommendation on utilizing Krivola and utilizing the role that your country has as a singular with excellent relationship, certainly with the vast majority of your neighbors and certainly within what was former Yugoslavia. And to capitalize on that. And Prime Minister Mickoski, I want to thank you for coming today. And I want to emphasize that the takeaway that I have is that you're wishing your country the right to succeed, and that I wish you all success here. And I ask our audience to join me in thanking you and wishing you all success in getting that right to succeed that you've earned.
Dear Professor, thank you so much for this opportunity and for this invitation. I just tried to convey feeling what vast majority of Macedonian citizens have, frustration about the enlargement process. For us, it seems like a moving target always. And I don't know whether I was perceived well, but from my point of view, I just wanted to describe how Macedonian citizens perceive the current situation and what they expect from the new Macedonian government. Thank you so much for everything that you provided for this event, and I think that we kept attention of the audience. They found something attractive, and probably we'll have opportunities in the future to raise those issues, but in a much more successful way.
I certainly hope so. Prime Minister, you surely kept everyone's interest and presented things, I think, in a very clear and effective way, and we're very grateful to you for coming. Thank you so much.